Good transition into the East. They are the powerhouse in the Big Ten. That is where the action is. That's where the top teams are, the factories. Let's just start.
Eventually, they're gonna have to mix these up. I mean, this is unsustainable.
I would assume so, yeah, because
It's unsustainable.
I mean, you have the Big Ten championship game happening like 2 weeks out from the actual Big Ten championship game when like Penn State or Ohio State go after it, or like Michigan State if you're up there playing Ohio State. Like the season's decided so early there. But let's start with the king, Ohio State.
Yep.
Where are we with them? Because I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling it's not going to go well for Ohio State this year. Like maybe they make it to the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to go well.
Ohio State will lose one game. That is my solid Dante Freeman prediction.
Your lock?
My lock is Ohio State will lose one game. I don't know what that game is.
I feel the exact opposite. I feel like this is the Ohio State gets the 4th seed in the college football playoff and they just rip through it. I think they are ready to go.
So their schedule suggests that they should have a relatively time, but they are sort of screwed. If they drop a game, they are in trouble because they play Nebraska, then Penn State. That's legit. Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan State, Michigan. Like if you drop a game in there, which I don't know if they're going to do, they're in trouble.
But here's the thing. My prediction, that one game they dropped could be the Big Ten championship.
Could be Illinois. Illinois could be their Purdue this year. Ohio State's always good for like one.
Ohio State is good for one of these losses. It's a random loss. It's never one that they're supposed to be a good game. It's literally like you could see them losing to Maryland this year.
Oh, if they lose to Maryland, they might have to pack it up.
Right. Which is what you would have thought when you would have suggested that they lost to Purdue that 42-24 game or whatever that score was that they just got blown out during.
Yeah,
that was embarrassing.
I'm slating it right now, and this may change, but at this moment in time, I'm slating that Illinois game as the like dark horse. Watch out, because they play Indiana the week before, and I have some thoughts on Indiana, but I bet they just blow the doors off them, and then you got Michigan State and Michigan to back it up. So maybe you're looking a little further ahead there, and Illinois just comes and smacks you in the mouth.
I think the worst thing to happen though is like what happens if Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, or whomever else they all have one loss.
That's tough. I don't know. You have to look to see what the other. I mean, ultimately, the Big Ten. Are you talking about who gets into the Big Ten championship? Or are you talking about,
not even the Big Ten championship because, playoff. Because we've seen that there used to be this notion that if you win the Big Ten championship, then you can still be you should be a shoo-in for the college football playoff. But we saw that year that that might not be true because they were still considering Ohio State, even though Ohio State wasn't in the Big Ten championship.
Considering they put them in.
I mean, they put them in. I meant they
got in.
They got in. Yeah. they theoretically shouldn't have. Yes.
I think the Big Ten, because college football, I mean, if we're being honest, it's a lot of fluff this year. Like, it's Clemson above everybody else right now, and then Alabama's sort of there, but I haven't seen a team yet play at a level that can beat Clemson.
Alabama in that third quarter.
Oh yeah, they looked phenomenal.
The game, they just turned down the Jets and were like, "See you guys."
Yeah, the offense is phenomenal, and I'll get into that with the Tennessee. But the defense concerns me. It's not right. Like it's not. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Clemson is just so good. But yeah, it's Clemson and Alabama above everybody else. So I think even as long as whoever's the Big Ten champion, like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, whoever it is.
Forget it. Put 2 Big Ten teams in.
They might. I mean, nobody. You don't have the Pac-12 this year, and who's putting a Big 12 team in? So it's like
nobody.
Yeah, there's a chance.
No.
Yeah, there's a legit chance the Big Ten could potentially get 2 in.
You're crazy, Nate.
No, I'm talking the Big Ten could get 2 in. Potentially.
They'll put Georgia in. They'll put Notre Dame in. Yeah. I mean.
See, Notre Dame's schedule though is rough because I thought about that and then I looked up and we're getting slightly off track with the Big Ten, but it's worth the conversation. Notre Dame's schedule, they have to play both Clemson and Miami before the ACC championship game. That's not easy.
More reason to put them into the championship.
But if they lose both those games, they're not getting in at 2 losses.
They lose one of the
yeah. But if they win,
or sorry, not Miami, North Carolina. who I actually think is a bit fraudulent. But like that could be like a sneaky like they screw
I
that
don't
up.
think they're fraudulent.
And if they lose against North Carolina, they definitely won't be in.
Yeah,
I don't think North Carolina's fraudulent.
I
I
just-
just think North Carolina. I think Nate's angry at North Carolina. We're
so-
getting on a sidetrack. Nate's just really angry at North Carolina right now, and that was just one of your typical Mac Brown games that I warned you against last week.
Yeah, I know, but I finally whatever. We'll get to that. I have a whole thing when we get down to the actual gambling of it, the nuts and bolts. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
get to the Michigan hate section.
I was gonna say, let's move to Michigan.
Yes.
The pretenders, I'll say at this point, because man, has there been a lot of hype, but no bark with this Michigan team since Harbaugh's taken over. He is 47-18 in his 6th year, went 9-4 last year, 6-3 in the Big Ten. Where do we have Michigan at this year? Because I think once again, Michigan fans are going to be very disappointed in the product they see on the field.
I mean, my narrative, let me take off my Michigan State rose-colored glasses, is that if there's a quote-unquote dark horse team for this side, it's Michigan. They have one of the toughest schedules. I know you're looking at me like that, Tim, but here's why. Michigan is on the precipice of what should be the greatest college football turnaround of all time. They won't do it.
What?
Yes, this schedule that they have, if they can beat all of these teams, they should be in the college football play. They have a very hard schedule. Do they not? Do we?
They
don't
do.
agree that
I
they
have
a
it
hard
up.
schedule?
Yes.
They have a very hard schedule.
So it goes for those.
They don't. They have like every other game.
Yeah, it's
And
Minnesota.
then there's like
MSU.
2 back to back. There's like they have Minnesota, they have a break with MSU, then they have Indiana and Wisconsin, and then they get Rutgers, and then they have Penn State. It's just like punch after punch.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
That is a lot.
If they pull this off, it won't. No narrative about Michigan will ever matter because they beat the hardest schedule in Big Ten history.
I mean, I agree with that, but like, do you really see them doing it?
No, I don't believe it.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. We're talking in hypotheticals.
Yes.
If they were to run the table, then
Yes.
they'd be meeting with all the articles that were ever written
Exactly.
about Joe Milton being the next Cam Newton, Aiden Hutchinson being the next Joey Bosa. You know, all those ridiculous articles that come out of here. The random other quarterback whose name I can't even remember is really pushing Joe Milton, who's also Cam Newton.
Because if they do this, there is no like, oh well, you didn't play so and so, you didn't play this team. Like, no, if they do this, this is like the greatest feat a Big Ten East school can do. Now, with that said, I think Michigan is probably very fraudulent. Probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we're getting a lot better.
Yeah.
You had me worried the way you were talking. I was so confused. I was so thrown.
No. I don't. Michigan has a lot to prove, but we got a new quarterback who is a dark horse Heisman somehow. I don't know. This O-line who sometimes looks good and then other times looks terrible. I have I have no expectations for Michigan. I don't know what to expect from them. Michigan could lose to MSU.
They could. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't think it will happen.
What I see Michigan doing is they're going to get their hopes crushed immediately with a loss to Minnesota, and then they're going to run the table, and then they're just going to get absolutely mollywopped by Ohio State in the final game of the season, and then they're going to end up another 2-loss team, and just above average like they always do.
I would love to see Michigan go 3-9.
That schedule sucks.
So would I.
Because I'm looking at that schedule, and the more I look
We're
at
near
it,
the end of it from us.
yeah,
Oh man, it'd be the greatest thing that ever happened. Yeah, that schedule is a beast.
sucks. Not because it's just a beast; it is a beast. But that off and on shit that they have to deal with is terrible. That's like rev yourself up for a big game, then you got fucking like Rutgers, and then you got to rev yourself up again for another big game. Then you got a fucking bum Maryland team. Then you got to rev yourself up for another big game. Like that is, there are so many like look ahead potholes there. It's a true Michigan highway. The Michigan schedule.
That's true.
It is.
That
It
is
sure
a
is.
true Michigan highway. And The other thing, Michigan kind of sucks. Like, if you're a Michigan fan, here's the one thing I guess you could take away from this is you have a lot of young talent, but that sucks for a year like this because there's a lot of sophomores on that team and a lot of, like, inexperience. Like, when I was doing the prep, I was looking at one article that was written, like, the year ahead, and there's a lot of sophomores out there. Like, Joe Milton, sophomore. 2 running backs, sophomores. Wide receiver, Gills Jackson, sophomore. Right tackle, Jalen Mayfield, sophomore. Cameron McGrain, sophomore. Apparently, this is what this article is saying. I haven't.
Well, they
verified
also,
this.
I mean, they also have a bunch of people.
They have, yeah.
They have what? Ambry Thomas and
Well, they
Nico
got
Collins opted out for the NFL draft.
Yep.
So they got a few people opting out too that are not opting back in.
They do have the bookends at defensive end though with Hutchinson and Pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch out for Hutchinson. He could be like Joey Bosa. That's what all the articles up here are
That's what they
saying.
said.
That's a
That's what
nightmare
they said.
situation.
I
Anytime you
don't
get a
believe
booking
anything
good
that's written
defenses.
in the Michigan market up here, though. I mean, he could be good, but he's not going to be Joey Bosa.
Probably not. No, that would be shocking if that were the case. But I mean, having 2 bookend good defensive ends that's nice, especially in a league where the Big Ten, all these teams have decent O lines at a minimum. So like being able to potentially bring pressure without having to blitz from the edge is huge. But I'm with you. I think because of that schedule, I think they're maybe a game over 500, maybe.
Oh,
Maybe?
Oh.
No.
I think they'll have a winning
I like
season.
that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think they'll have a winning season. I think, like Tim said, they'll probably be a 2-loss team.
I feel like they're going to They're going to lay an egg against Ohio State.
Yep.
I don't know about Penn State, but like if Penn State gets clicking, which I have some thoughts on Penn State, I feel like they lay an egg there. Wisconsin, I don't know, probably going to lose that game. So that's 3 losses right there. If you think they lose to Minnesota, that's 4 losses. So like that's tough, and that's without
The problem is
dropping
that
a look-ahead game.
we've seen them not with this quite hard of a schedule, but we've seen them pull out games that they shouldn't have. Like that game,
That's
I
true.
don't know if it was last year or the year before, that game against Minnesota that they shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
So we've seen, for whatever reason, Harbaugh almost always wins those games. Unless it's against Florida, that's a different story.
Yeah. Penn State. Let's talk. I've been alluding to them.
The Nittany Lions.
I don't know where I am on the Nittany Lions. The Nittany Lions. So
Made up name, by the way.
just like the Hokies down in VTech. Hokies not a real thing. It's not a turkey. I feel somebody got introduced into the pod. I feel like Penn State. They might. I don't know where I like because in part of my head it thinks, okay, they got the OC from Minnesota. He turned Tanner Morgan into a certified college quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Clifford, to me, was like wildly, and maybe my memory's wrong in this last year, was wildly inconsistent. But the OC philosophy is like keep it simple, so maybe that helps. And they're going to have a good defense. Like, the what's-his-face, the linebacker there opted out. I can't remember his name. He's an
We didn't do
All-American.
research, guys.
Yeah, I did some. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But outside of that defense is strong. Like real strong. So I feel like it's going to be the same Penn State team we always see, where they play. They're up big on their schedule, but then they run into Ohio State and they just don't have enough juice. But I'm wondering, because they play Ohio State so early, it is make or break early. Maybe not make or break, but it's going to be a big game early. Does that OC transition give them enough juice to maybe finally get over the hill and do something?
So I'm going to say something that Tim may like widen his eyes at again. But if there are 2 teams in the Big Ten who are going to suffer without having tune-up games, and I know all teams can benefit for tune-up games, it's going to be Indiana and Penn State. And it's so funny that they play each other first. Penn State, because they're retooling this offense, or I guess they're not retooling, but to some extent
It's
they
a new
are, because
system,
they got a new OC. Yeah. And Indiana, because of like Indiana is coming into this year with expectations, so you want to shake off some of that rust. And I think Indiana might like get punched in the mouth in this game, but it might be from defense, not from Penn State's defense, not from Penn State's offense.
Yeah.
With that said, I think Penn State, I never know what to do with Penn State because the years where I'm like, Penn State should be the greatest team, they should be so good. Then they end up dropping 2 or 3 games, and you're like, how did that happen, Penn State? And then the time when Penn State isn't on your radar, they go to the Big Ten championship.
I always buy into them so hard, just like Miami, and I'm just so cautious about this year. But I want to believe because of the system, like we saw the system work so well in Minnesota in turning a guy who is on nobody's radar into a very competent college quarterback. I want to believe he can do the same thing for Clifford, but I just don't have high hopes because I remember watching him last year and I was like, this kid doesn't have it. And I hope I'm wrong because I like what Franklin has done. I like him as a coach. He seems like an awesome person, so I want him to succeed. And I want Sean Clifford to succeed, but I remember last year thinking like this guy doesn't have it. Now, luckily he's got time there, but I think they might turn. I don't know. I want to buy into it so bad, but I'm cautious. The Indiana game is going to be big tell.
Yeah. I think with Penn State, I do see them. I guess it is a shortened season, so a 2 or 3 loss is almost a bad year. Yeah. But I do kind of see them with 2 losses this year. Then again, once they get past IU and Ohio State, what do they really have left? Like when I look at their schedule, I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's make or break early because they don't have a lot of makeup left in the
it's like put up or shut up right away.
Yep, huge. They're risking it all to get. You got to risk it to get the biscuit, and they are risking it all at the beginning.
Maryland, Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan, Rutgers, Michigan State.
Yeah,
right. So nothing. So
nothing.
Maybe I do see them as a 1-loss team, but if they beat Indiana and lose to Ohio State and just run the table, I mean,
it's potential. Yeah, see how the
what
cards
does that
fall.
really do for them, though? Right?
I guess their hardest.
Is that really a good season or an average season? Because they could finish as 1 loss, but they don't really do it. They don't really accomplish anything this year.
Their hardest test is at Michigan, right?
Yeah, like that's going to be. They got to hope that Michigan at that point in the season is up there. Same thing with Iowa. They got to hope the Iowa program is up there, which they could be. I mean, Iowa, like they start off with Purdue, Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota, and then Penn State. So, like, there's a potential people could be being like, you know what, Iowa's a good team because they got some fluff up front maybe a little bit.
But on the other side, they're only, 5.5 point favorites against Indiana. So,
well, that I think brings us to the next team very easily because Indiana is a team I want to talk about. I don't know. To you guys, you were more tied into the Big Ten, but I feel like Tom Allen, every time I turn on an Indiana game, they're competitive. And I feel like he has quietly, under the radar, built himself a competitive program that might take the next step here. Like he, under all the national radar, every time I turn on the TV since he's been there in the 4 years, they have been competitive in games I thought they had no business being in. Like,
trust me.
Has he flown under the radar? Like I think so. And like, there's a program in Indiana right now, right?
Yes, there is 100% a program in Indiana, and I do think they could make some noise. And by make some noise, I don't see them like this being their turnaround year, but I think they're right on the cuff. Like I think this is like.
I mean, he's 18-20.
I'm trying to find the parallel to Penn State, like when. James Franklin was kind of taken over, but I'm
after
not
Bill O'Brien. Yeah, Franklin came in after Bill O'Brien. You got to remember, Bill O'Brien was there first, which is crazy when you think way back to that. Like, God.
Like I said, I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier. I think Indiana is probably going to suffer from this all Big Ten.
Schedule. 100%. I mean,
big time.
Indiana's. Theirs is it's peppered in there, but they got Penn State, obviously, Rutgers kicking off the bat. Michigan State, Ohio State, Maryland, Wisconsin, Purdue. So they
go through a gauntlet in the middle.
Yeah, that is
towards
tough.
The end. Yeah,
that is tough. And when you get out of that, you're still like, fuck, we still got Wisconsin towards the end of the season. Like if their spirits aren't broken by then, it's just like, damn. Like why couldn't we just get like Rutgers, Maryland, and Purdue to finish out the season?
This is another like when you wonder, like we saw in Nebraska, but this is another one where I wonder, like, did the Big Ten say, well, let's just F over Indiana, because you got to play Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Yeah. That is tough. But I don't think. Luckily, Indiana isn't a pressure cooker, but I think I'm glad I was sort of spot on. Tom Allen building himself a program.
Yes, and that's the thing that sucks for Indiana. Like, I think if this was a normal year, we'd be talking about like Indiana's expectations and Indiana this and Indiana that. But I think with this all Big Ten schedule, with it being truncated, with it being in the crazy times we're in, it hurts Indiana the most.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that. Speaking of building programs, quick note: we think Schiano's going to do it again. We think he can replicate another successful program in Rutgers because he's back. I completely forgot about that until I was doing my review last night. I was like, oh, right, Schiano's back at Rutgers. Who knew? I mean, they got a ton of transfers. I could not believe it. I'm like, oh, a bagman's been going across the Midwest because they got Peyton Powell from Baylor, transferred over quarterback, Noah Vardell from Nebraska. I don't know if he's any good. They got some wide receiver from Wisconsin, tight end from West Virginia, Ohio State D-tackle, Michigan State D-tackle, Boston College D-tackle, Michigan defensive end.
But is this not a Frankenstein team?
Oh, probably. But I'm wondering, my expectations.
Will Greg Schiano get them back to be in Rutgers?
That's the question. Because this year is a blow-away.
I do not see anything going on this year, though.
This year, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, they're not.
We were in reality.
I do see that.
They might win a game.
I do see it happening because of all the talent you see coming out of New Jersey. And if somebody can just get one or two of those guys to stay home, like, that would be huge. But this year, no.
Yeah, they might, and I say might, win a game this year. Like, that's
this is gonna be a tough year for Rutgers. I mean, I know MSU is in a similar position, kinda, but I think Rutgers is in the worst position you could be in as a program right now.
Yes.
All right.
I would agree.
I mean, they were the first team, or one of the first teams, who had 10 or 12 people with coronavirus.
Probably. That seems fitting for Greg.
That's Schiano.
If you don't remember, we had what was it? We had, when he was the Bucks coach, there was what's the thing you get in locker rooms when you don't clean them?
All the staph
infections.
Yeah, there was staph infections running left and right through the Bucks organization.
Yeah.
Or
MRSA.
That was what it was. Yeah, just running through the Tampa Bay organization. So that was the least surprising thing when I heard that going on.
He's a big rub some dirt in it.
100%. Greg Schiano is the perfect epitome of like the guy who can never make the transition to the NFL. Like, it just doesn't work. He's like not the same. Do not take me as saying they are the same coach, but same in the fact, like, I don't think Dabo, for example, could ever coach a pro team. Oh, yeah. Like, they're college.
It's like college coach.
Yeah, they're college coaches.
Yeah.
I think it will be interesting to see how his coaching style does translate back to college athletes of today. So that'll be interesting to see.
That's true.
I mean, because he's a very my way or the highway, Chip Kelly kind of a guy. So
100%.
I mean, he has to control literally everything. So we'll see if it's sustainable. I guess.
Dude had cameras watching players in the locker room so they didn't like goof off and shit when he was on the Bucks. It's like, these are professional athletes, adults.
I knew some of these stories would
and
come
you were
back
treating them like
I can't remember
children.
any of them, but
he used to have assistant coaches walk through the locker room. Like, he had cameras filming the sidelines to see if people were like goofing off, like when they weren't in the game and stuff. It's like, dude, chill the fuck out. Like these dudes are gonna go home to their families later.
Making sure everybody was standing at all times rather than
had
taking
their helmet on,
cover.
like things like that.
You're not allowed to stand. You're not allowed to sit on the bench. You're not allowed to take your helmet off. You have to be standing at the sidelines at all times. Type of thing.
Failed experiment. Before we touch on your Michigan,
what was Schiano's biggest achievement when he was coaching the Bucks?
He ran away a lot of talent. Other teams in the league got much better. A lot.
The rest of the NFL got better.
A lot of the NFL got better. That's what happened.
And so the same thing will happen in the Big Ten. The Big Ten will get better.
Before we touch on your Michigan State, because I know you guys are chomping at the bit to talk about them.
No, of course not.
Maryland. Do we have any? Like, I just assume they're probably winning a game or two as well, like Rutgers. Like, I feel like there's not much there.
Maryland is in a position to steal games from people, and that's probably it.
Okay. So, frisky team.
Yeah.
Well, so I could see Maryland stealing a game. I mean, honestly, because they start off very hot and then they just disappear.
Yep.
I remember thinking like, weren't they even in like the top 25 like early on? Like they started off super hot last year at the beginning, and then they just kind of fell off the edge of the cliff. Like they went from like pushing top 3 in the Big Ten East to on par with Rutgers towards the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, that had a lot to do with Josh Jackson just being not very good.
That's true.
They have Tua's younger brother.
They got
because
Tua's brother.
Saban stopped making the mortgage payments in Tuscaloosa, so he had to go somewhere else. He had to find some mortgage payments somewhere else. The family had to uproot and find another $1 million house that somebody would make mortgage payments on for him.
So realistically, looking at their schedule, it's probably a 3-win schedule, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like anywhere between 1 to 3 wins, probably.
But like I said, I still stand by that they may steal a game from somebody. And
yeah, like I could see him stealing one of those first, like, well, not the first 3 games because they start off with Northwestern, but I could see him stealing either the Minnesota or the Penn State game.
Exactly. They could be Michigan State too.
Those are the 2 that I'm looking at. Well, that's not really stealing a game.
No, it's not.
Last team. Got to cover them before we get into the games this week. Your Sparties. How low are your expectations right now?
Cue the fight song. We don't have a fight song queued up. Where is the producer at? Oh my goodness. This year I'm gonna have fun watching football because I have no expectations for MSU. Zero.
Right. Fair. Best way not to get hurt.
The last time that happened too, keep in mind, was Dante's where he earned his nickname 9 and Free because he predicted they would go 9 and 3 after their 3 and 9 year, and we all thought he was absolutely crazy. And that's the last time I truly enjoyed watching Michigan State football.
And we went 9 and 3. I told everyone.
And like Dante said, I'm going to enjoy watching football. I have 0 expectations this year. I'm hearing crazy things that I don't want to believe at Michigan State. And what that is that Rocky Lombardi is going to be our quarterback. And that I'm also hearing to forget everything you've ever remembered Rocky Lombardi doing. And these are direct quotes from Rico Beard. And he said, you don't have to worry about him shot putting the ball down the field, which I know I've used that before for him. And he looked horrible, and he always has. But the other thing, Nate, a kid from your hometown is really the second name in this quarterback competition, which is wild to hear a true freshman be named in a quarterback competition at Michigan State. Like, that just doesn't happen ever. And Noah Kim, and how he's able to make some of the throws and go through some of the progressions, which we never see. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'd love to see Rocky Lombardi come out here, play for a season, and they can play Noah Kim at the end of every single game this year because it doesn't count towards your eligibility. And they could have a quarterback next year too. Like, that'd be incredible.
So let's put some perspective on this. Obviously, Michigan State is retooling, but for your Rutgers fans out there, Rutgers is 0-5 against MSU. I don't think this is the year that they beat Michigan State. I understand that we have a brand new everything possibly at MSU, but there's just certain things that the football guys won't let happen, and a loss to Rutgers in game 1 probably won't happen.
Right, and we do have actual talent on the offensive line now, and a real quarterback or a coach, who has actually put them through a strength program rather than them starting out their career at Michigan State at 320 and ending at 280. Like, they actually came in at 280 and are up to 330. Like, those are the types of things that are changing around here. And they played last year. They're getting bigger and better this year. Elijah Collins is coming back.
I can't wait.
Which I'm super pumped about. And I mean,
more importantly,
what I'm really excited about.
Tim, they are going to stretch during the game Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness! Don't remind me. I forgot about that.
Can you
It's
believe
another
it?
one of those sneak attacks that you guys have put me through. There's things in my mind that I try and block out of my memory, and that was a tweet when they interviewed. I don't remember who it was. It was one of the. I sent it directly to you.
Yeah.
They were interviewing one of the Michigan State O-line, and they're like, "Yeah, we're getting more flexible this year. We're stretching during practices." I was like, "Wait,
What were you doing before?
what the hell does that mean? You're stretching now for practices? Like that's how you prevent injuries?" No wonder you guys were always hurt.
Yeah, they famously that O-line could never stay healthy.
Yeah, no.
Correct. So I'm excited to watch them get healthy, hopefully stay healthy, fingers crossed, and see what our offense can do. Maybe, hopefully, we're getting a little bit more creative, like actually running some short outs, some crossing patterns. I mean, something to get Rocky in a rhythm early rather than just run the ball, pass on 3rd and 13 type of a deal. So hopefully I don't see too much of that, and I'll be excited.
I mean, a 7-6 season,
7-6. We're not playing that many.
I mean, we're not playing that many games, but if we were playing that many games, I would expect the 7-6 season. We're not playing that many, yeah.
Because when you're looking at, I mean, not even just looking at the schedule, but if you had 8 games in front of me and this MSU team, I'm looking at 3-5, and then hoping they win their bowl game and their playoff game, I guess, quote unquote, what the Big Ten is doing, where they pit the number 5 team versus the number 5 team on each side, which is kind of where I expect us to fall.
So like Michigan State has one of these weird schedules where I feel like we always have it. So this Rutgers game should be a win. You probably lose against Michigan, might lose against Iowa, depending on how Iowa looks. Then you should beat Indiana, Maryland, Northwestern, and then you run into Ohio State. And
I don't think Indiana's a win.
You don't think so?
No.
Indiana has a high-powered offense, I understand, but they still, that defense isn't great.
You're expecting Michigan State's offense to keep up with another offense?
I don't know, Tim. I don't know. Don't know.
I mean, you're better at the schedule predicting than I am, clearly, but
no. But so I'm better at the schedule prediction. But remember, in that 9-3 season, I didn't predict any of the losses right.
Nope, you had every single game actually wrong, but then the
yes,
then
I had
the
final
turned out being
yes,
right.
I didn't predict any game correctly. How that happened, I'll never. Not one. I didn't predict a single game correctly of the 3 losses.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I want to see, as Tim alluded to, Noah Kim went to my alma mater in high school, which is, I mean, he won a state. He's a winner. Won a state title. Broke his femur his junior year. Came back his senior year. Played strong. Like, it's a football. Virginia's a football factory, and he was very good from what I understand. I had to look him up when I saw he was committing to Michigan State. But I'll be excited to see if he plays.
Well, Nate, he is if he ends up starting at the same time that Elijah Collins is there, we will have alma maters manning the 2 most important positions on the Michigan State football team.
There we go. I like it. All right, that does it for our Big Ten. Well, I guess, who do we think wins the Big Ten?
Ohio State.
Right.
All right, cool. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Let's talk about our bets real quick and knock this out.